So what we thought was with motivational content available at the tap of a finger these days, we realized that what's truly valuable right now isn't just another generic pep talk. Because let's face it, if we're all honest with ourselves, we only really do the things we learn in those pep talks for about a week before we carry on with our lives and how we were doing it before we fall back into our old habits. So what you guys really need and what will benefit you will be real-world insights from your colleagues that are traveling the same path as you in the same market that you're working in. So please get your notebooks ready because your business is about to get the fuel injection it deserves. Before we start, however, which that's why I stopped counting where he was, I want you guys to make a quick mental note in your notebook of what you think the one thing Ryan, Tandy, and Sam Squared have in common. And we call them Sam Squared for a reason. Do you see they were going to the bathroom together and everything? So, yes. Sam Squared, that's why we separated them on stage as well. Okay, so please make a mental note of what's the one thing you think they all have in common before we get started. And we'll revisit that question at the end of the session. So Ryan, we're going to start with you.
Thanks, Alice.
And your topic, as you know, is your career development and your long-term strategy. Okay.
Perfect.
Ready to go?
Whenever you want.
Okay, so you joined us as one of the youngest agents we have ever had.
Doesn't feel like that anymore.
A few years ago now. Why did you choose real estate as your career?
I don't want to say I chose real estate. It was more of a real estate chose me in the aspect that I wanted to get into a different market, which was actually to go on those chartered yachts and travel the world as every young person wants to do. But you need quite a bit of courses behind you before you can get on those boats. And back then it was going to cost around about 120,000 Rand, which I didn't have at the time. Just coming out of a corporate job and trying to find my feet, I thought that would be the right route. And a friend at the time said, come through, let's have an interview. If you like the fit of real estate and market share, you can go from there and just see from that point. And it took about 6 to 8 months of me being in the industry, enjoying dealing with clients, seeing some beautiful, beautiful homes, and to eventually get up to my goal of earning 120,000 to pay for the course. And I got to that pivotal point and thought, you know what? This is pretty darn good. I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying the people. I'm enjoying the colleagues I work with. We've got a great team behind us. Let me put my roots down here and continue to grow from here to where we are today. And I must say, I can't look back at the decision and thank my younger self for making it. I've really enjoyed the process.
Excellent. And what was your vision for your business when you first started? You kind of touched on that was where you were going with it, and then you decided to push it further. What was your vision in total?
I think as every young person, you always think by 50 I'm going to be a multi-millionaire. Tomorrow I'm turning 29 and a little bit far from that. But I think my vision's definitely changed over the years. One thing that I wanted to do was grow into a team and have people work with me to grow and work together and just make such a nice culture amongst us so that we're able to lean on each other when we need, have that advice. And at this point, we're still building towards that team, but definitely to have a very loyal clientele, make good long-term relationships. And that was sort of the angle I wanted to have with my business.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what challenges did you have to overcome in your market, your specific marketplace? Maybe explain some geographical area.
Perfect. So my area is very small. We have about 3,500 homes in the whole area that I target. And at any given point, there's around 4% of those that hit the market. So roughly about 100 properties on Property 24 and the rest of the sites at any given time. And there's about 63 other active agents in my area. So very, very highly competitive. So 63 agents, only 100 listings, and you don't want to be sitting with 1 or 2 listings because we can't eat off that. So in my area, it's mainly built up with estates. So there's no freestanding houses or anything. It's all within an estate or a complex. I chose to focus more on estates, but with that it came with its own hurdles, like you can't put up a for sale board in my area. If you do, it's 1,500 Rand little fee into the kitty for the estate guards. So there's no external branding unless you put your face on a bin or a board, which we now have. And like I say, it was hard to adapt to the different estate rules. Like a lot of the estates don't allow showdays at all because it's all access controlled. So I think it was being able to work around those challenges and sort of optimize how I approach the clients how I get a little bit more of market share, because obviously word of mouth in that very small community goes a long way. So it was just basically building my personal brand, keeping my clients happy, and just keeping in touch, making sure once every year, once every 2 years, or a little bit sooner than that, but making sure that you know that they're speaking to their client, that their friends, if they're ever thinking of selling because they've got the relationship with you. That was quite important. Yeah.
And like you say, there's only 100 properties on the market at any one time, with 63 agents all working towards that same.
Like I say, it's cutthroat.
Yeah. So how do you then maintain your stock levels consistently? And what is the level of stock you prefer to have like at all times?
For sure. So, I mean, this is very personal. I think for everyone in the audience, we all have our own preferences on what we can handle and would like to have. Personally, I like having a big portfolio. I always say, in my shop, I like to have a lot of stock, so that if I get a buyer, my chances of closing that particular buyer are a lot higher because I can show them a lot more. So for me, my biggest thing, and I think almost one of my strengths, which a lot of clients come back to me with, is that I keep them updated. And it's not a whole rigmarole, it's not this hectic amount of work. My Mondays start with client feedback, so on a Monday morning, nice and early, I get on my WhatsApp voice notes and talk my talk and just let them know what's going on with the property, whether it's good news, bad news. We need to have a price discussion, if there was viewings in the past week, what happened, what the way forward from a strategy point is, but just a minute and a half, 2 minutes on a voice note to all of my clients. At the moment, I'm holding a portfolio of about 35, which is a little bit light for me. I like to be between 40 to 45. I feel that's comfortable. I'm able to work with that, and I've got a lot of stock to show potential clients. So yeah, I think the feedback aspect of it really is important to keep those relationships so that you're not losing out to other agents when your market's so competitive.
Yeah, and how do you motivate yourself on those Mondays if you are going to be having 35 or at least call it 30 conversations that sellers don't necessarily want to hear about their property, where it's priced and what the market is doing? Is there something you have to do on a Monday to psych yourself up to do that?
I would say day drinking, but in all seriousness, it's more boiling down to the fact of I work really closely with goals, and I'm sure the other paneled agents here will say it's nice to have a direction, something to push towards. If you're just working for the sake of working, you're going to get drained very quickly, whereas you've got a goal of hitting that first million, hitting 1.5, and you've broken it down into an action plan, as Louis was saying earlier, and just putting step by step to getting there. You sort of know, if in order for me to achieve that, I need to keep this relationship, I need to make sure that the client feels valued, feels heard, feels that we're adding that extra value, because otherwise, what's the difference between myself and another agent? So I feel, from a motivational point, it's definitely going down to why am I doing this? What drives me? Money. But all of those things, that's what gets me up. Yeah, overseas trips help as well. I would definitely recommend.
Very motivational when you book a trip and you have to pay for it somehow. Okay, so your business has evolved from being an individual agent through to a partnership. I think even there was a team a little bit.
Yeah.
What did you learn from each version of your career progression with that, from how your business to where it is today?
For sure. So for those who don't know, started out as an individual youngster, thought, I'm just going to take over the market. When I did start, it was very challenging because my market share is from 3 million Rand all the way up to around 15. So starting out, I think I joined you guys when I was 21, which was fairly legal. So when I'm approaching those sort of clients, they gave me a second look and they said, I'm going to give you my 5 million Rand house to deal with, and that was a big hurdle for me. And as I grew into real estate and developed it, and we brought on a partner, I learned to combat that. And the big thing I can say to working with individuals or working with another person is just keeping a very clear line of communication. If you're upset, voice it, because as soon as you start bottling in anything, that's where the animosity comes. That's where irritation and basically clashing of heads come. So in all the different, setting up a team, losing a team, having a partnership, having my business partner immigrate, I think a big thing for me that I took away was just having that open line of communication. If you're bugging me, or if I'm bugging you, more importantly, so that was a big learning curve for me.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Ryan. If you guys have got any questions for Ryan, please keep them. We're going to do a question and answer session at the end of the panel discussion. So note them down, write them on your phones, keep them in your head. We'll go through them afterwards. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, guys. And I just want to say thank you for the organizers for the ratio. I love that I'm the only man here with these lovely ladies. So thanks again.
The corner amongst the roses. Okay, Samantha Smith. Hi. Your topic is social media and its impact on your business and how you keep consistency and do content even when you're busy with inquiries and life in general. Okay, ready?
Okay, I am ready.
Got
I
your
had to
notes?
write them down, sorry guys, I'll be reading them.
It's okay. So tell us about 2 of your most successful posts.
Okay. I read them backwards.
Mr. K, you can stop me for it, huh? I think it was one of your TikTok ones that hit at least 150,000.
I found it.
200,000 views.
Okay, so I measure the success of my posts by whether they achieve their purpose. One example is a TikTok post that achieved over 300,000 views, 146 comments, 745 saves, and 352 shares. So, that one property has now reached over 500,000 views on one platform, meaning I was able to showcase it to 500,000 people in a single day without speaking to each one directly. Facebook has also been incredibly powerful. While individual posts perform well, the real impact comes from consistency. Over time, my Facebook content has reached a total of 31 million people. That's where the growth happens. Now imagine talking to a seller and telling them that their home has been seen by 31 million people, but still hasn't sold. Suddenly, conversations about price adjustments or marketing strategies become much easier.
Yeah, no, I can understand that. And it was, just talk to us about that 300,000, it was just like literally like a 5-second, 7-second video of you driving past the outside of the property, is that correct?
Yeah, so I just did a drive-by of the house front, and I basically just showed the house from one side to the other side.
That's it. You actually never know which posts are going to go viral, but I mean, it's the simplest ones sometimes that surprise you. So just carry on taking those videos and posting them, and you will hit the jackpot. So how much of an impact has social media had on your business and your personal brand as well?
Oh, a big impact. So social media has had a huge impact on my business, primarily by increasing brand awareness and making it easier for clients to find me. So in today's market, being discoverable is crucial because clients want to research their agent before making a decision. If they can see my past work and reviews and industry insights, it builds trust before even having that first conversation. It's not just about the marketing, it's also about creating transparency and credibility, which ultimately helps me connect and serve my clients better.
And also the fact that you are, or in general, everybody that does use social media properly and consistently and is at the top of their area with regards to their social media posts, like Laura does posts, I think 3 times a day at least, every single day, different types of posts. They're not just helping their own self and their own personal brand, they're helping all of us, right? Oh yes, properties is the thing that gets recognized. It's the logo they use, it's the colors they use. It becomes more recognizable for everyone. So everybody that consistently uses social media is doing us all a favor. So thank you to those who are doing it. And if you're not doing it, why not? An age is not an excuse these days. Okay, so Sam, which platforms you already talked a little bit about, but your strategy on each. Do you change the videos for each platform when you do your videos? Do you start giving information, giving tips and stuff? Do you post them to all the platforms?
Okay, so I rank them as the following. So TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. When people talk about social media strategies, I always hear them saying, post 3 times a day, post at this hour. But at the end of the day, posting 3 times a day is not a strategy, it's a consistency, it's a frequency. So you can't expect to build trust and engagement if you don't post, if you post and you disappear. So imagine going to a store that opens its doors once a day and then stays closed for weeks. customers won't rely on it, and the same goes with social media. If you consistently provide value, whether it's through listings, whether it's market insights or helpful tips, clients know that they can count on you, and when they're ready to make a next move, they'll definitely use you.
Yeah, totally agree with that. Do you use AI, and for the people in the audience who are slightly older, artificial intelligence, do you use that in your strategy?
So when it comes to AI, I use it to help with grammar correction and media editing. I don't rely on it with my posts. I prefer to create my content myself because frankly, I don't want to blend in with everybody else. I think AI is a great tool for some people and it definitely works well for many. But for me, the personal touch in my content is important. It's mostly about maintaining authenticity and standing out in a crowded space.
Yeah, that's the word you're looking for, authenticity. People relate to authentic content, exactly. But it's you hit the nail on the head. Use it to correct grammar issues. Correct grammar issues and give yourself ideas as well. I mean, you can ask ChatGPT for some ideas of some content, but then make the content your own. Exactly. So, how much time? This is a big one. How much time do you spend on social media per day? And then individual strategies on each property.
Okay, so I don't spend time scrolling on social media during the day. This might sound surprising. I schedule my posts to run automatically in the background, and I check in on each platform just once a day. If I notice a post has good engagement, I take a moment to review the statistics, particularly the demographics of the post. This helps me understand who's interacting with my content and allows me to better target a specific buyer group. Unless you need to reply to a client, there's really no need to recheck your own content.
Okay, so that answers the question of how often do you then review these posts? Okay. And so life gets super busy. How do you maintain the consistency when your inquiries, when you're out on the road doing viewings, when you are off in Cape Town enjoying life? How do you maintain and keep your consistency?
So the only way to be consistent and to keep consistency is to be one step ahead. Scheduling my posts is how I manage it. The most important part is not to force yourself. So if you don't feel like doing it today, schedule it tomorrow so that the next day will always be covered. The secret is your followers won't judge you for skipping one day, but you have to get up and show up again and again and prove that you are worth their time.
What platform do you use to schedule your posts?
I typically use Meta Business Suite, or I schedule them directly on the platform.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
Tandy. Tandy.
Hi.
Hi. Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So, Tandy, your topic is volume of listings and how you narrow down and handle your buyers. Okay, so I don't know if any of you guys know this, but Tandy does consistently have one of the most amount of listings, always, for sale listings on our platforms and all the platforms. So first off, let's start with how many sales listings you currently have.
I'm currently sitting at 47.
You put Mark?
Yeah.
Can you hear Tandy? Okay, excellent. So you regularly list more stock than your colleagues. How do you manage to identify and get in touch with so many sellers?
So I get most of my listings mostly on Property 24. So what I do, I check, I target those listings that are older than a month or 2 months, and then I start calling sellers. How I know which seller to call, for example, because most of them are multi-listed. So I go to each description of each agent that listed and maybe just read the description. Somehow I find a clue of which property or which complex is it. Then I check the square meters, for example. When I call maybe let's say the complex, when I call that complex, I'll call the owners of those properties that have that same square meters that I saw online. So how I narrow it down, I call the oldest owners first. So in most cases, it's one of those oldest sellers that are selling. So I do the same with the properties that I think is not in a complex, it's in a, maybe it's a house. So I check again for the clue, and then I'll find maybe someone, one of the agents, wrote the street name. I check the square meters, I do the same, I call all the owners in the street. I narrow it down, but I call the oldest owners down to, but usually it's one of the top oldest owners that are selling.
So your forensic skills top notch right there. That's amazing, Kali. So you guys who like to stalk people on social media and stuff, you can use that skill to find out which properties are on the market and canvass those sellers. So you touched on it already, but your canvassing methods is mostly calling.
Yes, I mostly call. Yeah, I do calling. It works for me. But I don't just call. I prepare myself. So I prepare myself, and I always keep in mind the age of the client I'm calling and the gender. So, for example, the clients, maybe clients in their late 50s upwards, male clients, when you call them after you introduce yourself, the reason you're calling, and they're comfortable with your introduction, usually the next question that I mostly get is, when do you want to come? So by then I already know that I've got the property. So most of the time, because usually male clients in the late 50s, they don't want to waste time, straight to the point. So I usually, before I call, as part of my preparations, I check when is the next slot in the next 2 days, for example. And then my answer usually is, how about maybe tomorrow at 12 or tomorrow at 3? And one of the slots will work for both of us, and then I go there. When I call the female clients, I prepare myself to be longer on the call because same age, late 50s upwards, because I get to be asked so many questions, even though I introduce myself at the beginning of the call, where I'm calling from. Before we start, I get to be asked so many questions. Questions like, how did you get my numbers? How did you know that I'm selling my property? So many questions. So, but even though I get to be asked so many questions, it's not a guarantee that the answer will be a yes. So as part of my preparations, I also prepare myself to receive, to get a no answer. So it's part of my prep because I don't want it to discourage me from continuing doing the same thing tomorrow. Yeah, so I also found that maybe it's important to know the gender of the client you're calling, because I feel it sounds professional when you call a client first time and you address them correctly, like, may I please speak to Mr. So-and-so or Mrs. So-and-so, and like maybe asking them, may I please speak to Mr. or Mrs. Because sometimes when you check at their names, you're not sure whether it's a male or a female. So for me to identify if it's a male or a female, because some names are unisex, you don't know whether it's a male or a female that you call it. So I check the ID number. With the ID number, I'm able to identify the gender of the client I'm calling. So how I identify that after date of birth, for example, if the number starts with 0 to 4, I know it's a female. And then if the number starts with 5 to 9, I know it's a male. So already when I call, I'm addressing them correctly the first time, which I believe first impression lasts. So yeah, that's how I do that. And then clients in their late 20s to mid 50s, for example, I always expect anything. Sometimes I get to be rejected on the spot and be told that please take my number off your list and never call me again. That's what I always expect. Or some clients will appreciate your call and say, they'll appreciate your call to your point where it's a yes on the spot. So every day is different. For example, also, I don't take for granted when I call my clients that I'm the one who called them, which means they stopped whatever they were doing to take my call. For me, that it is an achievement that they picked up a call just to answer my call. So that's how I work.
That's amazing. Everybody, hope you made a note of that with the ID numbers. Comes very to everyone's talking in other ways. Okay, so what are your typical seller objections and how do you handle them to still list the property?
I usually get to an answer like maybe to be told, it's multi-listed, what are you going to do different that other agents won't do? I listed my property with more experienced agents, so you coming on board, you don't make any difference. So sometimes they'll say, but if you have buyers, you're more than welcome to bring them. Sometimes they don't say that. I ask them if I can bring buyers, if I do have buyers that I think they will be interested in your property. So when I take the buyer, if let's say while I'm still waiting for them to make a decision whether they want me to come on board or not, I still take clients. But the very first time I take the first client to see the house, I use that opportunity. When I go there, I go prepared. So what I do after the client left, I ask the seller, do you have a moment? The answer is always yes, because I'm there. So while I'm there, I sit down with them, I go through the CMA, that obviously I go there prepared, and try to find out what are the feedbacks they've been getting from the previous agents, since they say it hasn't been selling for a long time. That's why they don't want me to come on board. Somehow they will tell me they've been getting feedback, this and that. But what I found is that most feedbacks that they're getting from other companies is usually, most agents, they give them what they want to hear. They tell them what they want to hear. Positive feedbacks alone. So from there, while I'm still there, I ask them, do you mind if you can just give me a month and see how I work? And then after a month, you can make a decision. You can decide whether you want to continue with me or not. Usually it's a yes. And then comes maybe end of the month, the property is still not sold. In most cases, they don't say they're happy to continue working with me. Yeah, so that's how I work. That's how I get to convince those who don't want me to list the property.
So you put your money where your mouth is, really, right? Not just taking no for an answer and saying, okay, thanks, I'm not sure what I give different to other agents. Okay, bye. You get your foot in the door and you show them that you will bring buyers through their property. So then they can't really say no. Okay, so what is your success rate or your conversion rate? How many properties that you list on average do you sell?
I'll say maybe for every 10 properties that I list, maybe I'm able to sell between 4 to 6. Obviously, if it's priced well from the beginning.
Okay. And your listings vary in desirability. So, for instance, for someone like Ryan, his properties are always generally a certain price bracket and desirability. Your properties vary a lot. So, how do you get passionate about some listings that maybe some other agents would be like, ugh, I'm not going to list this down? How do you keep that passion?
So what I've learned over the years is that there's always a shift on the property market. There's sometimes where you find that properties, certain specs, certain price range, certain description and all that, it's selling unlike the others. So I make sure that I have different kinds of properties so that when that shift happens, I'm also covered. So I try to do what they call one-stop shop. So that when they come to me, everything's there.
What is your general geographical area, Sandy?
I do North Riding, Olive Day, Yatsky Park, and Gloversland.
All right. And with so many listings, like Ryan says how he keeps in touch with his sellers, how do you then price counsel and provide feedback to all of your sellers?
I think if you give feedback to buyers regularly, it kind of prepare them on what price range the offers they can expect realistically versus what they want you to achieve. So in that sense, because I give them regularly feedback, when I bring a lower offer than they expected, they receive it well, because already I prepared them by giving them feedback of what's happening on the market.
So you give them weekly feedback?
Yes, once a week.
Once a week, every week. Okay. And what challenges have you had to overcome in your career?
Sure, there are so many, but just to name a few, for example, where you find that you have a property that there are so many people that are interested in that property, and but those buyers, they're all available in different times. So to find a balance between the time that the seller is available versus the buyers, those different buyers who are available in different times. So how I find the balance between that, I mostly work according to the seller's schedule, because I believe they are the ones who go through a lot, because they have to prepare the house and all of that. So I tell my buyers that maybe the house is only available to be viewed at on this day at a certain time. And also I also make sure that I also advise sellers to give me days if I think it's better to come when their helpers are there, just to ease the pressure on the seller side. So some they want to view after hours. So I found that after hours sometimes you end up doing the same job twice, because they view in a rush. So most likely they'll want to come for a second viewing because they feel rushed, because they're from work. The seller also is from work. So I advise them to come view on a Saturday if they're available. But those who are only available during the week, I try and find a way to accommodate them.
Excellent, Sandy. Thank you. Thank you for your valuable insights. Okay, Sam. Huge volumes of inquiries, both sales and rentals. How do you deal with them and keep them on track? So that's your topic. Question number 1. From January the 1st to March the 10th, you received 383 inquiries from buyers and tenants. How do you manage the process in responding and converting these leads?
Okay, so I think what is very important before I list the property, I always tell my sellers, I had a similar property listed, let's say a week or 2 ago. It's similar priced, it's a similar style home. We can expect a lot of viewings coming through. So before I get your listing up, tell me when you are available, what day works for you, and I normally schedule an hour. And then what I do is I activate that listing, and I make sure when I activate the listing, I'm literally sitting with my phone in my hand, because I know what's going to happen. As those inquiries come through, obviously on our WhatsApp, I literally give every single inquiry a little thumbs up, because then I know I've actually done it. Because I'm sure you all have noticed sometimes if you get so many inquiries coming through, you have to go and double check which ones you've responded to. I then respond to the client, and I use business WhatsApp. So I literally go and add the person's name, say this is a tenant for 10,000 Rand, for example, and then I use my labels. So on the label, I would say tenant, and I would say need to schedule a viewing. As soon as that inquiry comes through and I've responded, before that client even responds back to me, I would say to them, I have a viewing slot at this property for Saturday at 12 o'clock, let me know if you're available, and I will give you your time to come through to see the property. That is the only way to do it, because you can imagine for every inquiry that comes through, you have to tell them, I'll get back to you, I need to chat to the seller, I need to chat to the current tenant, and then only schedule. How are you going to remember to go back to all of them? But once you've already told them when they're available, I know I can go into my labels, I can go back to that client, and I can go see, oh, you haven't responded, let me pop you another reminder. Usually, the reason it works for me is when I do viewings like that, I would end up scheduling, let's say 3 to 4 clients every 15 minutes at the same property, and that carries on for an hour. Those people all come through together, they feel there's a little bit of pressure. I end up renting or selling that property within that hour slot, and very seldomly do I have to add another hour or another day to deal with the balance of the clients coming through.
FOMO is a real thing.
Yep.
Exactly. Great bidding war with your properties. I love it. How do you combine family life, community obligations, and work, and still deal with the volumes of leads that you receive?
I'm going to start off by saying very, very carefully. it becomes overwhelming. So list upon a list on another list becomes reality. You have to be planned. Everything has to happen in a schedule, and everything falls into the calendar. And if it doesn't fit in there, it's not going to happen on that day. That is the only way to do it.
Because I don't know if most of you probably do know, but Sam runs the Barbecue Downs community, so where she lives and works. She also has community obligations, and you all know what a community WhatsApp group is like, right? Everybody has one of those, and Sam has about, how many do you have to manage in the WhatsApp group?
We have 3 groups.
3 groups of many people, very, very opinionated people, not me. But, so she's not just dealing with clients and difficult clients and stuff, she's also dealing with difficult residents all at one time. So to be able to manage that and manage those lists, what time do you get up in the morning?
Usually around 4. So I want to add to what I do. I would rather leave a WhatsApp regarding if it's community work unread, and when I have time sitting outside a house waiting for the buyer to arrive, I will then go under my unread WhatsApps. It's an amazing feature if you haven't started using it, and you can quickly run through all the WhatsApps that you haven't responded to. And if it is something that doesn't just need an acknowledgement, but it needs me to go back and actually give them an explanation, I will just unread the message. And again, within my next slot that I have available, you will then get the full details. And again, WhatsApp voice notes, if it wasn't for that, I honestly cannot type as much as I can talk.
How do you keep track of client follow-ups, and how do you maintain a database? So to enable you to offer future properties that you list which may suit people that haven't managed to secure property as yet, how do you manage that? What kind of database do you run?
Alright, so firstly what I do is exactly what I just explained to you, how I run my business WhatsApp. I have labels saying buyer under 2 million, buyer under 3 million, buyer under 4 million, for example. And when I meet that client for the first time, I would literally go and put under their name, this is a buyer looking for a 2.3 million rand property. It needs to have 2 bedrooms, it needs to have 2 bathrooms, pool, double garage, and I put it all in their name. Because it's under the labels, when I list another property and it's, let's say, under 2 million rand or under 3 million rand, depending on what label they fall under, I would then take that property and send it to all those buyers. But obviously, I first go read, what did I write? I don't just randomly send it to every buyer on my database under 3 million. A lot of the times, that buyer for that property is already there. It's not a new buyer coming through Property 24 or through our leads. It's a buyer that I have dealt with already.
Excellent. And how do you keep track and complete your rental renewals and ensure that they pay?
With loves. Okay, so the first thing I do is obviously we get that very nice reminder that comes through on our emails. I have a business WhatsApp that gives you quick responses. So I have a draft quick response for a tenant renewing a lease, as well as for the landlord. I firstly message the landlord and I tell them, your property is up for renewal, tenant XYZ in the property name. You might not know this, but sometimes the landlord that you're dealing with has more than one property, and sometimes they don't know what you're talking about. So you give them all the information. I remind them in that WhatsApp what my services are for doing the renewal, what my charge is going to be for the work I'm going to do for you. And then I just, at the bottom of my message, it says, waiting for your feedback. And then landlords would usually message me, thank you very much, and please go ahead with the renewal. They have agreed to paying me what I've just told them our commissions are. I've agreed to what I'm going to do the renewal for them. I then in turn contact the tenant to say, your lease is expiring, I've had a discussion with your landlord, he's happy for you to renew your lease for another 12 months, and we've already agreed on the rental increase, because that's part of my message to the landlord. So this saves me time, because it was one message to my landlord, one message to my tenant. As soon as the tenant responds, already in my message, I had a line there saying, if you would like to renew, this is what I would require from you. So I'm asking them for their salary slip for the renewal. it cuts down on a lot of up and down conversations. And a lot of you might say, why you do it on WhatsApp? Because I've got written confirmation that this is what we have discussed, and it wasn't a telephonic conversation, and I didn't need to send an email. I schedule about an hour every Monday and Wednesday, and I just, so on my email I've got my to-do list. You know, Gmail does that. You go through your to-do list, I follow up on every rental, what was still outstanding for the renewal, what I need to do, and if it is for the tenant to sign the addendum, or it is for the landlord to sign the addendum, or it is for me to submit the deal to the office. By the time that the invoice arrives, I literally send it to the landlord, and the next response would be, thank you, Sam, here's the payment.
So you don't generally get objections about paying for renewals because you set the expectation right from the minute you contacted them about renewing the lease.
I think what a lot of times happens, you assume that your landlord remembers when they signed a lease a year ago that there was a potential renewal clause in the lease agreement. Your landlords don't remember that, and when you contact them, they're assuming you're going to do it for free. So with your introductory WhatsApp, you can put clear lines in place that if you ask me to do the renewal, this would be the charge.
Don't give away your money, guys. Don't be afraid to ask for the money that they've really agreed to do right from the beginning. Just remind them of their obligations in the way, kind of the way that Sam did. Because a lot of times we just don't feel like forcing the issue. The tenant's been good, you've been easy, you'll get the house to sell eventually when the tenant leaves. It's still your money. You're giving away money. Okay. Thanks, Sam. And how do you deal with mandate objections? And do you work on open mandates with other agents?
So mandate rejections is quite interesting. I have to say it doesn't happen often, but if it does happen, it's usually because the other agent that went in to do evaluation promised the moon and the sky and the earth and everything else, and their price was much higher than mine. The sellers end up going with that agent. I see the listing coming up. I don't message the landlord or the seller to say, why didn't you give me the house? I leave them. They know I'm here. They know I'm going to see it. They know I'm going to drive past the estate. They know I'm going to see the other agents' boards. But I can almost tell you 90% of the time, if that house doesn't sell at that price, I will get the call to say, Sam, please come in. Please come and help us. So in my mind, I always convinced myself that it wasn't something that I've done wrong. I was honest on my price. Another agent might not have been honest, and they just did it at a higher price to get the listing.
Working with other agents?
I don't mind working with them. I love competition.
As long as you win. Okay, your final question. What challenges have you had to overcome in your career?
I think specifically setting boundaries, time limits. You only have X amount of hours in the day. Even though you wake up at 4 o'clock, you still have family life, you still have work, you have kids. I think it's when you say, I cannot take a listing on. In the beginning, this was very hard for me to tell someone that I don't have the capacity or I don't have the time. And on the back of that, a seller wanting you to list the property and you know that this house is never going to sell at that price and they refuse to reduce it. I think in the beginning, we all want stock and you would just go, yes, 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 please give it to me. But you know that the seller will never drop that price. I've now learned, don't list that property.
It's a good lesson to learn for us all. Okay, thank you. Please give your panel a round of applause. I think we've got some time for some Q&As, maybe 3. I mean, I have got some questions here otherwise, but are we wanting questions from the audience? Mr. Williams. Who's got their hand up? Cheryl to talk loudly, it's okay.
Dave.
This is a question. Don't worry, Sam. Brian, question for you. I know you are very active in the enemy stock market.
Yes. Yeah.
And something that I'm battling with that Tanti also covered, but I'd like to know what your response is. If somebody says, what are you going to do differently?
Yeah, so just to put everyone in context, about 65 to 70% of all my sales come from pre-existing stock. So as Sam was saying, another agent's going to walk in there, promise the client the world and beyond, and we're going to look at the property, look at the price, have a little giggle to ourselves, and then in 3 to 6 months' time, I'll contact them back. And then that is something that often comes up is, well, I've already listed with, you know, Tracy. What are you going to do different to Tracy? And I think it's about actually looking inside and going, well, I give weekly feedbacks. I currently have 4 or 5 other properties in your price range. One of them I've already sold, which means I have rotating buyers, which I can potentially put your property in front of. So I think it's just more trying to convince the seller that you offer a lot more value than the other agents. And that's why I say I like to hold a big portfolio, because it almost shows a confidence that, look at all these other sellers that have trusted me with their homes, I must be doing something right. So I sort of let that posture speak for itself, but definitely saying, you know, we've got other homes in this price range. We've recently done quite a few sales. Here they are, if you haven't. And then, yeah, essentially just saying weekly feedback. We've gotten great response from our past clients where we've dealt with. And like I say, trying to put yourself in a different bracket to any other agents in your area. That I must say really tries, it almost sets me apart from anyone else. Any more?
No. We've got another.
Hello, Ryan.
Hi there.
How are you?
Very well indeed.
Great.
Good.
You know, Ryan, in my real estate experience, I was always challenged with listing estates. To be quite honest, even today, I'm not sure what is it that I was doing wrong. So I would just like you to advise me, because I believe when you're an agent, naturally, you do follow those protocols. Obviously, you call in, and then the owner allows you to the property, and you do your thing, okay? Apart from social media, which I respect, because I can see now social media is the thing,
Yeah.
but you can imagine all of us now are doing social media. So, in my opinion, it's not so special anymore in terms of we are all on social media. So it's a matter of choice now. Do I look at Roberta's post or do I look at Ryan's post? That's my fair belief in social media.
Okay.
So how are you managing those listings to get them? And I understand you just mentioned now that you deal with existing stock, but on the other hand, you still set target for yourself, and you still need to list more so that you can have more properties on the market. So how are you getting around that? Bearing in mind social media, I'm not really pushing it out. I just want to know what Ryan does to get in there, to really get in the estate,
Yeah.
and convince the seller to give you the mandate.
100%. So, very good question. Like I said earlier, no market, you can't have external marketing unless you're paying hundreds of rands a month for your face on a bin, which clients find hilarious when they drive past and be like, hey, there's our trashy agent. It does work, but that is what it is on. So I think the thing is you need to know your market. Typically, if someone lists a property in my area, within a day, I will know where that house is without even driving in the estate, because I know my area by the back of my hand. I think it's very important to know your area, what each estate offers, so that when you're convincing a seller, you almost need to sell the estate to the seller, so he goes, geez, this guy knows what he's doing, he knows his stuff. So for instance, one of my bigger estates, which has about 613 houses in it, is Bushwillow Park Estate. Most people that buy there, buy it for the whole natural feel. It's very well established with greenery, it's got a lot of parks, it's got a lot of walkways, it's got water catchments. So those are things I'm going to highlight to my seller, because then he knows I know my stuff. So that I definitely think helps a lot, and just boiling it down to the basics. For you to be able to sell in your area, you have to know your area. You need to put yourself in your buyer's mindset and understand why would they buy here. What are the attractive features of that, and then go from there.
So is it a case of them even knowing you inside the estate? Does that really matter?
I wish it was more like that, but like I say, if it's not word of mouth, it's very tough to get in there. But like I say, open calling. If I list the property, as Sam was saying, WhatsApp business, if you guys don't have it, you're missing out. It really is a good tool. But for me, it will be, I've listed a property, I'm going to go into my database, I'm going to message the 3 neighbors on the left, 3 neighbors on the right, and the neighbors across the road to say, hey Mr. Seller, I've just listed your neighbor's house. If you ever need anything property related, I'm your guy or lady. So that helps.
Thank you.
And what Ryan said, he's also taken 8 years to build up his personal brand with consistency. 27, 29. No, this is your 8. Well, this is your 8.
Yeah. Personal brand.
Consistently building up personal brand.
One last question, Samantha. Do you think your rating, is it based on the specific social media content you're using? Because I heard you specifically mention that you post on Meta, and what else?
Yes, so I think when you start social media, it's important to not focus on all different platforms. You want to be visible on them, and you want to be findable, because I don't know how many of you know this, but if you are on social media, you are automatically on Google. And the visibility comes where your client, I mean, how many of us have had a recommendation before and you had to Google them to see if they're legit? Yeah. So basically what social media does on different platforms, it just creates a visibility, and automatically, psychologically, your client goes, oh, well, I can trust them. So that's where the widespread social media comes. But when you just start social media, just focus on one platform. Choose one that you like. If you don't like doing videos, then stay off of TikTok. Go onto Facebook so that you can post things. Instagram, where you can post pictures until you are comfortable being in front of a camera.
And then one last question, Samantha. Samantha, are you?
You have to say my surname before I answer your question. I'm joking.
Samantha, for me, it looks like you are specific. You don't just sell in general. Which parts of real estate do you focus on? What's your focus? Are you on estates? Are you on standalones? Are you on farms? Are you on plots? What do you?
That's a very loaded question. So I stay in Barbecue Downs, which used to be plots. Now we only have estates. We don't have freestanding homes. We have 26 estates or complexes, a mix of sectional title and full title, so all my sales are within the estates.
So I would assume, like Ryan said, you are in your community, so everybody knows you, right? It makes it easier.
So I am part of the Barbecue Downs Residents Association. So I manage our WhatsApp groups. So yes, everybody knows me, which does make it easier because they would most probably phone me first, but I do have my face on all the trash bins. And I do get the flack for every single streetlight pothole in our suburb. And then hopefully they like me enough, even though I wasn't able to get their pothole fixed, I will still sell their house for them.
Thank you so much. I was just asking things that challenge me in my real estate, so at least I've got something to work on. Thank you.
Ryan, oh wow, this is really loud. You worked alone, right, in a partnership and in a team.
Yeah.
So which of those would you say that you prefer, and why? Like motivation.
Sure, that's a good question. I must say they all had their benefits, they all had their disadvantages. So it just boils down to what you want as an individual. So for instance, when I wanted a team, I wasn't covering enough of my apartments. Sam said there's only so many hours in a day you can work, and work effectively. So if I had to dive into my apartments as well as the estates, I wouldn't even be able to be here because it's just too much work. So I wanted a team where I was able to dispatch any new listings so that client could be looked after. It didn't work out for various reasons. You need to find someone motivated, someone you trust, and like I say, that was a challenge. In terms of a partnership, it was more of an opportunity that came about from a competing agent that was in the area pre-existing. She had her clients, I had my clients, and we came together. And I must say, I learned a lot. She was a senior agent to me, and I learned a lot, especially that good old backbone that I can take from it. But in terms of something specific for you, it is one of those where you sort of have to go through the journey and see if it fits the person you are and what you want out of the business.
So would you say you prefer working alone?
Now, I definitely prefer working alone. Maybe when I was a little more junior, a team or a partnership would have pushed me up a lot quicker.
And why do you prefer working alone
Now
now?
I feel it's, I don't know, 4 o'clock will wake up, so but it's more on, everything's on me. I don't need to rely on anyone. If I don't get stuff done, it's on me. It's not like I can blame or push the envelope. But at the same time, if I don't work, I don't get paid. So I like the fact that it's my independence on it, and I can just push my routes, my way. I mean, last year we went away for a month in October to Italy. And I didn't have to ask permission from my partner or something. It was just one of those decisions where, luckily October was quiet, as I saw from the stats, so luckily for that. But it just works for me and sort of what I want out of the property game. Thanks for the question.
I think that's all we've got time for here. But you guys are welcome to chat to these guys over coffee if you're paying. Okay, so we want to get going with the awards. So I just want to revisit my initial question. Does anybody know what Ryan Tundy and Sam Squared have in common?
Having money.
Any other guesses?
Consistency on setting their goals right and being proactive.
You're amazing. That is true. So that's amazing. Anyone else? Yeah. Okay. The answer I was looking for was they all started the real estate career with us and came through the academy with Cameron. Okay? That is the reason why they're sitting up here as the choice panelists. And it's proof with them and with Lana and all the others that have come through the academy and are doing super well. It's proof if you start your career doing the right things and get into good habits right from the beginning, then the sky is your limit and you can take a month in Italy.